Welcome, my fellow citizens, to Citizen Smith on this Wednesday, January 20th, the day President Biden is inaugurated. I'm recording this just before his speech, but as I watch it all morning, and the band playing that below, and the American flags hanging from the Capitol building, and the people walking into the Capitol, the congressmen and women, and Biden and Harris coming out of the presidential cars in the caravan. It's always a sense of appreciation to be an American. Everybody, right, gets very patriotic. We see the red, white, and blue colors, the glorious Capitol building and its gleaming white. But there isn't 250,000 people watching today. The COVID crisis stopping many from getting in. And, of course, the extra security of 25,000 National Guards keeping a green zone around a safety area so no bad people can show up and try to do something after the Capitol riot 2 weeks ago. Everybody's mentioning the stark contrast of the Capitol building today compared to the riot we saw 2 weeks ago. And it is a stark difference, and it's so emblematic of the resiliency of America's democracy. America's democracy allowed crazy, violent people to invade a Capitol building without a mass slaughter taking place by a military reaction, which is one point of the riots that people don't understand or talk about much, is we actually showed great restraint in not making that a bloodbath. Protesters exercised their right to protest as is a democratic freedom. It got violent, and then they went away after, you know what happened. But today, the very same building where this took place is peaceful, waiting for the speech of the next president. That's democracy. That's America at its best. It is America resilient, able to rebound from difficult situations. No matter how difficult, we overcome. And that's the feeling you get when you see a new president come into office. The inauguration always is full of optimism. For the next 4 years, we're optimistic that we will unite as a country again and overcome racism and inequality. The Vice President, Kamala Harris, black woman, Asian woman, first Vice President woman. One step forward for female kind in America. And, again, representative of the great democracy and country that we are. Our image is one that says anybody can take power and privilege, not just privileged people, but you can work your way through a system and establish yourself as somebody who can get to one of the highest offices in the land. And a woman. How many countries out there in the world don't even allow women to get an education or even get close to a position of power and leadership? But in America, you can do it. And that's the message being sent today. Joe Biden, 48 years since his first election into Congress. He's been a vice president and now the 46th president. 77 years of age. I hope he stays healthy and his mind stays sharp. I'm worried that won't be the case because of his age and the stress of the office. But maybe he'll prove that no matter your age, as long as you stay strong and healthy and have a healthy diet and physical regimen to stay strong bodily, and we'll see how the mind stays healthy. Maybe he'll send a message, never too old to lead. See, I'm being optimistic on this inauguration day. He's got a full agenda. In his first 100 days, he's going to be really tested. Some things can be done quickly, like enacting the $1.9 trillion COVID relief package. Rolling out 100 million vaccines for for the coronavirus in 100 days. These are the first things on the agenda. And he will have to do other things that can move smoothly and quickly, probably like joining the Paris Climate Accord, reversing travel bans on certain Muslim and African countries, and on with things of that nature. The coronavirus, though, he's looking to reopen most K-8 schools during the first 100 days, which is great because I'm a strong advocate to get the children back into the classroom to learn, especially K-8. They are really getting set behind because of the lack of in-classroom instruction. As a former teacher, I can speak strongly on this from experience. I was teaching kids in China back in the last 6 months before I came back in last January. I worked with 5 and 6-year-olds. They can't learn without being in classroom. And, of course, the $1.9 trillion relief package to expand vaccinations, improve testing and treatment, and provide more economic aid for the funding of cities and schools, and expanding unemployment insurance and benefits with the enhanced $400 weekly addition. But interesting, yes, he is going to set aside $130 billion to help schools reopen and expand testing of the coronavirus at schools so that when kids go into the school, they know they're healthy and they can't transmit the infection. When I saw that, I was like, wow, that's great. It's first I've heard of it. Excellent. Already we're off to a good start in this presidency. One thing that I noted about the leaving of the presidency, President Trump, of course, not attending the inauguration, but Vice President Pence will. Pence didn't join President Trump when he boarded the Air Force One plane back to Florida. It was a very uncelebratory event. He made a brief speech, and then he was gone. Gone. Goodbye. Thank you for leaving. and best of luck. And we will now hopefully move on as a sane country from what became an insane leadership. But they did do one thing that I read this and I was pretty surprised. In the Wall Street Journal, they reported, as have other outlets, the Uyghur population in China that has been rounded up for incarceration in education centers, as they call them, in Xinjiang province. Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, on one of his last missions, one of his last actions, saying China committed genocide and crimes against humanity. And he said, quote, "I believe this genocide is ongoing and that we are witnessing the systematic attempt to destroy Uyghurs by the Chinese Party state," Mr. Pompeo said. He said Communist Party authorities are, quote, "engaged in the forced assimilation and eventual erasure of a vulnerable ethnic and religious minority group. So this genocide designation, which also applies to other minority groups in Xinjiang, doesn't carry any automatic legal consequences, as it was reported in this article, but it puts pressure on other nations and U.S. allies in particular to consider sanctions and take other steps to condemn Beijing's policy. Joe Biden will have to address this as well, and Antony Blinken, his Secretary of State. But Blinken said he agreed with Pompeo and said, quote, "forcing men, women, and children into concentration camps constituted genocide." The last time the State Department leveled an accusation like genocide was in 2016, when then Secretary of State John Kerry said that Islamic State was responsible for genocide against Yazidis, Christians, and Shiite Muslims in areas the military group controlled. So a significant statement and position for them to say and conclude that China has committed genocide. We will see how they respond, and we'll see how the world responds, because I think this is very important. And a lot of our relationship with China over the next 4 years of the Biden administration, as everybody is making a note of, is very critical right now. How do we address a growing economy that challenges America economically, militarily, and have strained relations? Where do we go from here? Will there be a growing threat, or will there be some kind of harmony between the two countries? I will be watching this closely, as I like to follow all of the China-America relation issues. So when you listen to Citizen Smith, you will hear a lot of talk and news coverage of China-America relations and issues. I don't think enough of it's discussed. It's the most critical relationship internationally right now between two countries. Coming up in the second segment, domestic talk about Portland, Oregon, where we are based here at TalkCastPDX.com, your portal for Portland issues and local shows that we produce and host. I will be talking with Melissa Span. She is the Chief Clinical Officer of Monte Nido, which opened this week a new residential treatment center for people with eating disorders. And it is said in the report that I read in the press release that they provided, Monte Nido, that eating disorders are on the rise due to the pandemic. So I talked to her about that issue of eating disorders, how to combat it, how to address it, and about their new facility in Portland, Oregon. Next on Citizen Smith.
TalkCast PDX is a digital platform for local talk shows, live video streaming shows, and podcasts originating from Portland, Oregon. We are committed to a diversity of opinions and quality talk that offers something for everyone. At our brand new state-of-the-art studio, we offer a wide range of services to meet every type of broadcasting need. Yes, we will help you record and edit your podcast or program. We also help you distribute on multiple platforms, and we can also help you transcribe your show for a blog. We offer video services and promotional services, as well as ad revenue packages. Email us today for a special introductory offer. Everything you need to start your own show as soon as possible. We're here to help. Go to TalkCastPDX.com, that's TalkCastPDX.com, and send us a message today.
It's time for Citizen Smith.
I'm talking with Melissa Span now. She's the Chief Clinical Officer of Monte Nido, which is a new company that opened in Portland yesterday. They're a residential eating disorder treatment center now in Oregon. And they take on issues such as anorexia, bulimia, and also exercise dependency, which I'm not sure what that is, but she's going to help us understand this. And with the pandemic, these eating disorders and issues people are facing with not only mental health, but physical health is something that's hasn't really been discussed much that I know of, so I'm glad to be able to have you on the show today, Melissa. Welcome to Citizen Smith.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
The pandemic, it has brought on more disorders. Is that what I'm reading correctly?
Yes, it has. So basically, anytime that there's an increase in stress, there's going to be an increase in potential mental health-related issues, and certainly eating disorders are a big part of that. So disruptions to daily life, lack of structure, people being in their home environment more, and social distancing from people who may have otherwise been in their support system have really led to what we have seen is an increase in people struggling.
I read in your press release, eating disorders have the highest mortality rate of any mental health illness. I had no idea it was that severe.
Yeah, it is. That actually, there are national surveys that estimate that there's 20 million women and 10 million men in America that will have an eating disorder at some point in their lives. And eating disorders are certainly treatable, but they affect all people, all genders, age, races, religions, ethnicities, orientations, body shape and size.
Your organization opening up in Portland, is this the second opening, or is this your first time in the city?
This is our first adult residential program in Portland. We have another program in the Portland area that is for adolescents only, and another residential in Eugene. So we're really excited to be opening this new residential program in Portland. We know that there's a great need in Oregon. We have seen people coming to us asking for more beds, asking for more treatment. So we're really pleased to be able to provide that to the community.
It's also mentioned in your press release that you're also taking on co-occurring substance use in trauma and psychiatric presentations. Can you clarify that? What exactly do you mean?
Sure. So eating disorders don't occur within a bubble. In fact, from our internal research project, we know that almost no client that admits to us although they have a primary eating disorder, typically have a secondary set of diagnosis. So that might be a substance disorder, that might be a history of other mental health related issues. Certainly we have high incidence of trauma that we see in eating disorder populations as well. And so our goal, while anyone who comes to us will have a primary diagnosis of an eating disorder, we know that they're dealing with a whole host of issues that we want to be able to dig in and really provide effective evidence-based treatment.
Why did you choose Portland? You have, I guess, affiliates around the country, right? You're a national company, and you now opened in Portland. What was the impetus behind opening this in the city of Portland, Oregon?
Well, yes, we do have treatment programs across the country. We have seen just such a huge need in the state of Oregon. Typically, our adult program in Eugene runs on a wait list, which we don't like. We don't want anyone to sit waiting for access to care. I think that there is a great opportunity and potential access to healthcare services in the Oregon area. And when we do sort of our internal process and looking at where we see people are coming from into our treatment centers, we identified that Portland was an area that had a pretty significant need.
What do you attribute to that significant need? Why the uptick in Portland? It's a foodie city. People are supposed to go out and enjoy eating food there.
Well, they certainly do. And I think that there's probably a variety of things that are going on in Portland that may have contributed to that. And the plans for opening up this program well predated the onset of COVID. And so that need was there prior to the onset of this horrible global pandemic. And I think that the pandemic has now just, as I said before, exacerbated people's struggles. And so we all have things that we do to cope with difficult situations. And for many people, a lot of those coping mechanisms have been taken away because of the pandemic, or access to going out or seeing people or doing different things. And so as a result, we've seen people with anorexia becoming more restricted, people with binge eating disorder, bulimia, engaging in more binging. And so it's exacerbated what was otherwise there, or even sort of maybe a little bit dormant.
What is exercise dependency?
So exercise dependency is not a DSM diagnosis, but what we talk about when we talk about exercise dependency or compulsive exercise is really an extreme form of exercise, excessive exercise, and really the way to do sort of a self-evaluation of this is to determine what it means, what exercise means in your life. So, for example, do I give myself permission to eat because I have exercise, or do I exercise so that I can eat? And so, difficulty in not going to the gym, for example, is something that a lot of people have experienced, and that anxiety over not being able to work out is something that we've seen people really, really struggle with. And so excessive exercise, compulsive exercise is, for many people, another way that they're trying to control their body size.
That's not a bad thing, though, right?
What's not a bad thing?
Well, to exercise to get fit. For example, all right, I'm gonna throw myself into the equation here, and you can diagnose me.
Sure.
I love exercising. I'm a mid-50s guy. I've exercised my entire life. I always like to go to the gym. Makes me feel better, positive mind. When the pandemic hit, I didn't go to the gym for 9 months. I was in China when this hit in January. I finally got into the gym in December. Feels so much better, but I really was having a bit of depression not working out. And by getting back in the gym, it got rid of my depression, and I felt a little more positive, energetic, and I gained 10 pounds, so I'm looking forward to losing the weight and watching my food intake, maybe a little too much as I strive to lose weight because I was shocked at what I did weigh. And am I exercise dependent?
Well, I think that there's a ton of research that talks about the benefits of exercise and what movement does to help our brains, help our mental health. I think that there's a difference between what I would call a normalized exercise and a compulsive exercise addiction. And so what teeters sort of around there is, some of those other factors, such as, if exercise really interferes with your life, your daily activities. So if you ever say, look, I'm not going to go to my kid's birthday party because I have to get that run in. So that's a pretty clear sign that something's wrong. If you're experiencing a lot of rigidity with your exercise routine, like I have to do this every single day or it will feel like the world's going to implode. So those are things that are certainly things that we want to look out for in terms of compulsive exercise.
Well, you could say every bodybuilder in the world then falls under that description. They take it to another level of obsession, and I've watched a couple of documentaries on it.
Yeah. There's certainly subsets of every population you could look at and peel apart for potential diagnostic criteria. But specifically when we're talking about eating disorders, what we're looking at is a huge part of eating disorders is the preoccupation with someone's weight, body size, or shape. And so what we're doing when we're talking about eating disorders, whether it's exercise or how much you're eating, or if you're engaging in other eating disorder symptoms such as binging or purging, restriction, ultimately what we're talking about is that the eating disorder is a manifestation of a means for control and what's going on in that person's life that they're experiencing that. And so our work and our goal is to help challenge those eating disorder related thoughts and behaviors and to bring out a version of everyone's healthy self that can allow them to have a more fuller, richer life.
Also, in your press release, it says 1 in 10 people with eating disorders do not receive treatment. So 1 person in 10 receives treatment. That means 9 other people need it but aren't getting it. Is it because they lack awareness of it, or they don't? Why is the number skewed against treatment?
I think there's a lot of reasons for that. In more recent years, the stigma surrounding eating disorders has certainly been broken down. However, there certainly is still a stigma there, particularly within certain populations, certain different groups of people. There is higher stigma in receiving mental health benefits or going to ask for help in general. And so the stigma is a big one. Access to care is certainly another big issue in terms of receiving treatment overall as well.
So now that you have your Portland opening, what can people expect when they go there? Is it, I think I read it was a 2-day treatment that you go in, or is it longer? I have a disorder. I'm ready to take it on. I enter your office. What can I expect?
Yeah, so actually our treatment on average is about 6 weeks. We don't have a specific time associated with it because everybody's coming to us at a different place from a different point in their journey. So when someone comes into treatment with us, what they're going to receive is a tremendous amount of psychoeducation. They're going to learn about the causes and the influences to why they use certain behaviors. They're going to get, we have a full-time chef on site who prepares all of their meals. We have a dietitian that they work with. They receive individual therapy multiple times a week, multiple group therapies. We do offer yoga therapies, other expressive therapies, and we're doing everything that we can to both address why the eating disorder is going on in their lives right now, and why it started in the first place.
Interesting. I guess the challenge is to really help people understand they have a problem before they can understand how to fix the problem, recognizing it first and then treating yourself afterwards. So maybe if they listen to this program and somebody hears it and they have what they think is a disorder, do you find that people think they have a disorder but they're not sure, or are they certain they do before they come in?
I think that people enter treatment a lot of different ways. More often than not, there's someone in someone's life who says, you know what, that seems a little funky. Something's going on with that behavior, or they notice things. There's warning signs, things like someone stops eating around other people, or they're skipping meals, or they're running to the restroom right after the meal. They're constantly on diet. There's lots of weight fluctuations. So there's a lot of those sort of warning signs that people look out for, and then see something and might confront someone and have a conversation with them and say something's going on, and then that sort of begins the process of that individual looking to see how they can seek help.
Monte Nido and Affiliates has been doing this for 25 years, providing eating disorder treatment. They have a pretty good They have a pretty good understanding then of the success rate. What's the success rate look like for somebody, percentage-wise, if they go in? How many stick with the program and correct their problem?
Well, we actually do have pretty high success rates. We're very proud of having the first ever published residential treatment study from our early days. And we're now involved in another long-term IRB-approved research study looking at treatment outcomes. And what we can see is that people who go the course of treatment, who complete treatment, do improve both in eating disorder symptoms, so reduction in eating disorder symptoms, and improvement in mood. So things like depression and anxiety that typically go hand in hand with the eating disorder, we do see improvements in that as people progress through all levels of care of treatment.
Did you see like a 50%, 60% improvement? Do you have a number on that?
It is something that is in progress right now. I can tell you that part of what our research project is doing right now is looking specifically at how clients are doing with trauma treatment. And we do have a pretty significant amount of trauma treatment clients who participate in our trauma treatment and our care. And that's a fairly high percentage of success that we do see from our clients as well. Overall, the Association of Traumatic Events, PTSD, and Eating Disorders, we do see that clients are treated at, I think we're at about 50% success.
Very good. Well, check it out if you need the help. It's called Monte Nido, Portland. They opened yesterday, and you can find them on their website as well, montenido.com. That's MONTENIDO. Melissa Span joining me today. She's the newly hired, taking over as Chief Clinical Officer at this new facility, Monte Nido in Portland, correct?
Yes, I am the National Chief Clinical Officer for all of the Monte Nido and affiliate programs. So I oversee those programs across the country.
Well, very good. Thank you for joining me today on Citizen Smith. Interesting. It's one of those things I hadn't thought about until now, and I hope we enlighten some of the listeners, and if anybody is out there needing treatment, they'll find it and help themselves. Thank you again for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And that does it for this Citizen Smith. I will talk to you again on Friday. Have a great day, a healthy and safe day.